Ladies and gentlemen, could I please have your attention? I think we'll go ahead and start. You're welcome. If you want to get a little bit closer, the sound system might work slightly better, but you need to be comfortable. We won't be here long. Mrs. Mary Seay has graciously agreed to provide some information today and help us remember the members of our communities that have fallen in the service of our country. And Mrs. Carol Corns, the widow of General John Corns, has graciously agreed to represent the fallen and the families of the fallen. And we appreciate both of them. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Right after Mrs. Seay's discussion or talk, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and unfold the flag. Mr. Billy Brooks is going to be kind enough to play taps. During that time, if you are able, I would ask that you would stand, and the typical salute for those not in uniform would be the hand over the heart. With that said, I shall turn the floor over to Mrs. Seay. Thank you so much.
Well, I think we're all very grateful to be Americans. I'm so thankful for the freedoms we have. You know, we're the only country in the world that has anything like a First Amendment. Pastors in Canada can get arrested for reading certain portions of the Bible. I'm very grateful to be able to practice my religion freely, to be able to share the gospel, to be able to speak our minds, to write anything, and not worry about it. We really do take our freedoms for granted, and we have them because of the many, many people who were willing to risk their lives for us to have these freedoms. And I think back to Nathan Hale in the Revolution. George Washington said he needed to know about troop movements in New York. So Nathan was just 21, and he took the job, was found out by the British, tried as a traitor and spy, and hanged. He asked for a Bible, and they wouldn't give it to him. He asked for a clergyman, and they wouldn't supply that either. But those who witnessed his hanging said he went up the scaffold perfectly composed. And his last words were famously, "I regret that I only have but one life to lose for my country." 27 American sailors on the USS Constitution, Old Ironsides, died in the War of 1812. Famously, between 182 and 257 Texans were killed at the Alamo, including William Travis, Jim Bowie, and Davy Crockett. We're very aware of the sacrifices in the Civil War living here in the Valley. We lost Turner Ashby and Stonewall Jackson. They were those brave boys from VMI who marched up the Valley Turnpike through Stanton and went to fight in the Battle of Newmarket. And 10 of those young men, teenagers, lost their lives at Newmarket. At Shiloh, there were 3,477 Union and Confederate dead. At Antietam, there were 2,963 Union and Confederate dead. At Gettysburg, there were 7,058 Union and Confederate dead. At the Battle of Cold Harbor, the Union troops were in a very bad position. The Confederate troops had the heights, and they were even their flanks. They had inflating fire on their flanks, and they were so sure that they were going to die that this was before dog tags. So they wrote their names and attached them to their uniforms. And indeed, 1,845 Union soldiers died at Cold Harbor. 144 Americans were killed at the Battle of San Juan in the Spanish-American War. In World War I, Theodore Roosevelt's youngest son, Quentin, died as a pilot, shot down. He was just 20 years old. He was shot down on July 14th, 1918. The following January, January 6, 1919, Theodore Roosevelt died. He was just 60, and I've always felt he died of a broken heart. Closer to home, Lieutenant Colonel Joe X. Bell from Goshen was shot down over Germany on one of his missions in his B-24. That was the 10th of March, 1945. It was 43 years before family members could visit his grave in Belgium, one of those beautiful crosses. In Korea, 19-year-old Corporal Charles Jean Abel was pinned down with his squad. North Koreans had a bunker up in the heights. He was already wounded, but single-handedly attacked that bunker, was wounded twice more. When he got near the bunker, he pulled the pin on a grenade and fell into the bunker, killing himself and all the North Koreans. He was awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor. In Vietnam, I had friends I grew up with, George Bass, Jimmy Ford, Dieter Freitag. George and Jimmy were West Pointers. Dieter was a sergeant. They were all three, just typical of their generation. Strong, young, full of life, so much potential. Dieter volunteered for a second tour in Vietnam and didn't come home. In Desert Storm, we don't think much of casualties there, but there were. First Lieutenant Joseph D. Max and his medevac crew transported 2 badly wounded Iraqi resistance fighters to a hospital. They were on their way to a hospital when their UH-60 Black Hawk crashed. There were no survivors. We had neighbors in Charlottesville, Bob and Betty Arms, who had a wonderful young son, Brad. And before he was out of high school, he signed up with the Marines and went to boot camp. After graduation, he went off to the University of Georgia and was called up and died at Fallujah. Over 1.19 million Americans have died in battle since the Revolution. The Lord Jesus said in John 15:13, "Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends."
Thank you, Mrs. Seay. Ladies and gentlemen, we're about ready to have the military honors. During the taps, if you're able, I would ask you to stand and consider the typical salute. After the taps has been concluded, you're welcome to regain your seat if you have one, and we'll go ahead and present the flag to Ms. Corns on behalf of those members of our community that have fallen on duty. May on behalf of a grateful nation, present this flag to you in memory of the individuals in our community in uniform who have fallen in the service of our nation and in memory of their families.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our Memorial Day Sunday observance. Tomorrow, please give a memory and a few thoughts to those that have fallen in service of our country, and perhaps consider a prayer for the ones they've left behind. You are dismissed. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.